That's very confusing. I don't know where your sister went to psychiatry school.
All right. All right. For Judging Judy. All right.
Hello, this is the Judging Judy podcast, the only podcast that turns the tables on America's least favorite judge. Before we jump into this week's episode, which comes to us all the way from back on November 26th, 1997, I just have a little advice. Keep your friends close. Keep your enemies closer, unless they have lice. To remind us what was going on back when this episode originally aired in 1997, I've brought in my friend, Professor Wikipedia, Doctorate of Crunchamunchology. In the midst of the Asian financial crisis, a bank run was avoided in Japan when TV networks decided to not air footage of the long lines that had formed outside of financial institutions. Further proof that, even in Tokyo, you should never trust Uncle Billy to deposit the money from the building and loan, especially with Mr. Potter around looking for trouble. U2's Pop Mart tour reached Atlanta, Georgia, where nearly 27,000 people jammed the Georgia Dome to hear the Irish Rockers and their opening act, Smash Mouth. Of course, today, Pop Mart is better known as a mall outlet that sells little pieces of plastic garbage that people forget will be worthless within a few years. Though Ebano Laububu sounds like a great idea. The movie Cliffhanger was released on DVD. Directed by Rennie Harlin, Cliffhanger was... Thanks for the help, Professor Wikipedia. Next up, let's check in on the New York Times crossword for November 26, 1997. The clue for 15 across is... Cause of an 1839 through 1842 war. And the answer is... opium. Finally, let's see how the box office looked that day in 1997. Number 3, Men in Black. Number 2, The Devil's Advocate. And number 1, Starship Troopers. Based on the 1959 novel by Robert Heinlein, the film is set in the 23rd century and follows members of the military of the United Citizen Federation, an Earth-based world government engaged in an interstellar war against an alien species known as the Arachnids. The film garnered overwhelmingly negative reviews at release, with many citing its apparent coziness with fascist and Nazi themes. However, more recent analysis has recast the film as a prescient warning. A warning that clearly no one heeded as we continue our downside into totalitarianism. Bear this in mind the next time you're told about all the arachnids in the Panama Canal, Venezuela, or Greenland. Let's get to the teaser for today's episode.
I was the one that was the victim.
How about that? This is actually the tagline of the Republican Party in 2025.
A decade-long family tragedy unfolds because a young mother can't cope.
And there's no better place to work on your coping skills than the daytime TV show where the mean little lady yells at you. It's like coping boot camp.
A child is not a piece of meat.
Tell that to a hungry bear, am I right? Those poor guys can't live on boysenberries and stolen picnic baskets alone.
Hey, you caused a lot of trauma.
Mind you, this was back when Judy was working on her moody Alanis Morissette phase. It was no jagged little pill. And it never really took off. It lacked some subtlety, you know? Okay, let's get to the case.
Bodies on Castillo versus Hopkins.
With those names, this absolutely sounds like a middleweight boxing match live from the Piggly Wiggly Convention Center in Myrtle Beach, aired on a Thursday afternoon on ESPN2. But it is not. Instead of boxing, we've got a court case. Marnie is suing her Aunt Vicky. Marnie says her aunt agreed to adopt her daughter 9 years previously, but that never happened. And now the courts are going after Marnie for child support. Recognizing that, at this point, it's unlikely Vicky will develop a time machine and use it to right the wrongs of 9 years prior by adopting the kid, Marnie is settling for wanting Vicky to pay that back child support. I gotta say, the guy or gal who does invent the time machine, they are absolutely gonna put the child support racket out of business. A lot of kids are going to be retroactively unborn once that patent is filed and we get time machines next to every Dr. Scholl's kiosk in Walgreens all across the country.
That'll be the day.
Judy opens up by saying that after reading through the papers submitted for the case, it's obvious that a real family tragedy has occurred.
But most especially for an innocent child who is now 10?
9.
9, 10, it doesn't matter. That's enough time for me to confidently say that kid is not innocent anymore. 9 years is more than enough time to get into all kinds of trouble. Pooping their pants, outbursts in public, lying, stealing, Nope, that was just my to-do list for the afternoon. Judy says that this case, suing someone for a failed adoption of a child, is unlike any case she's seen in over 25 years of judging. My word, not hers. Let's see if we can make it a thing.
You were a teenager, you had a child out of wedlock.
Judy says that according to what was submitted along with the case, Vicky and her husband agreed to take Marnie's kid, an infant at the time, because it wasn't being cared for. Vicky confirms this is the truth, but Marnie says it isn't.
I disagree. You usually do.
Judy says we'll get to that after we get a little bit more background.
And for that first 14 months, she had lived with her mother.
Off and on, she lived with Marnie.
What, along with a binky, did the kid have a bindle? Did it travel the rails eating Gerber mushed peas next to a smoky fire? We don't get any clarity on whether the kid was or was not a stereotypical Depression-era hobo, but we do learn that it visited with Vicky from the time it was 2 weeks old. Marnie repeatedly restates that these were only visits, that she did not live with Vicky, in the same way that though I have this special magic wand, and I have opinions on their buffet, and I know all their best water slides, I have only visited Great Wolf Lodge, I do not live there.
But maybe one day.
Miss Castillo, I would suggest that you not be hostile.
Or its sequel, Hostel Part 2, or the final movie in the trilogy, Hostel Part 3. While we're out here giving advice, Miss Castillo, I would suggest you not be a movie at all. You're a person, not a movie. Without urging Marnie to also not be Saw or Hereditary, Judy returns to the case at hand, reminding us, a little needlessly, that Vicky did not adopt the kid, and that the kid is now 9.
And the child at some point was being supported by the taxpayers.
What does this kid think he is? A professional football team? Or America's soybean farmers? Or the richest man on earth and the world's foremost South African Nazi? America's taxpayers shouldn't be supporting America's children. Judy's really dragging this out. She again explains that now the kid is 9 and Marnie is suing her aunt because she didn't adopt the kid. And now Marnie has to pay back child support, and it's like Groundhog Day, without the uncomfortable reality that Bill Murray's character's redemption arc only comes by way of exploiting those not stuck in the time loop.
That's what this case is about.
That's basically, yes, what it's about.
And hold on a minute, in what is an amazing coincidence that I swear I did not orchestrate, I believe this episode is coming out on Groundhog's Day. And then, if you're stuck repeating this day for all eternity, it will come out on Groundhog's Day again, and again. And again. We finally get some new information by way of Vicky.
We were going to adopt this little girl because the father was named unknown in the whole beginning of everything. I have all the paperwork here.
Miss Castillo.
Marnie, that's enough. Every time you interrupt, we start again at the beginning. We just found out the kid's a girl. We just found out the kid has a father, an unknown father, and Vicky was about to tell us why she didn't adopt the kid, and you just had to interrupt. Now Judy's going to ask how old the kid is. She's going to say that Vicky was going to adopt the kid. I don't say this nearly as often as I wish, but Marnie, you ruin everything.
Marnie!
Vicky says that up until they got some final paperwork, everything had been going to plan, that they were all set to adopt the 14-month-old girl. Until...
We got a letter and some papers sent to us from Don Smith, which was handling the adoption, showing that Fillmore Hostler was Marley's father that Marnie had named.
Fillmore Hustler is definitely the stage name for a male stripper working at an illicit club operating after hours in the back of an auto shop in Bakersfield. Fillmore Hustler may be a nice guy. Fillmore Hustler may be a good dancer. But Fillmore Hustler is not a real name.
He was Native American.
That doesn't make it a real name.
We were told in the beginning it was a good thing this little girl's father wasn't Native American.
Who told you this? And why? I don't think this is going to end well. Marnie is raising her hand to speak, and I don't know if I want Vicky to keep going or... Man, remember when Judy just kept repeating the same facts about the case? That was fun. We were all having a good time back then. I wish we could go back to that instead of this race, Native American stuff.
It would have to be okayed by the tribe.
Oh, thank God. Never before have I been more thankful for tribal sovereignty, because that's all we're talking about here. We're all friends. Judy, while asking to see paperwork that Vicky has, explains why the kid's parentage might be an issue.
The tribe, the native tribe, has first crack at trying those cases or dealing with the adoption because they feel as if the tribe wants to hold on to whatever children that they have, rather than allow the state to be involved.
There was also a part where Judy used the phrase in reference to the kid's parentage, certain amount of blood, but that language, while probably grounded in law and certainly okay in 1997, sounds a little too Stephen Millery in 2025.
He's a criminal and a terrorist.
If this all seems strange to you, the native courts and adoption and all that, take a break, pause the podcast, and read a little bit about boarding schools and how the United States tried to destroy native culture through forced assimilation that often resulted in child abuse and death. In 2024, President Biden apologized for the mistreatment of native children at boarding schools. So read about it while you can. Judy asks if at any point Marnie named anyone as the kid's dad.
Not at the birth, but during the rundown on the adoption with Don Smith, yes, I did name the real father.
So too late. At least too late not to complicate things for Vicky. Judy asks if the person Marnie named was Native American. That's not exactly what Judy called it, but I'm trying to help her out here.
He was half, and I also have papers stating that it says Caucasian with his name on it, with their signatures on it.
When Marnie says there, she points to Vicky, which kind of implies she went to a notary to get a piece of paper saying the kid's dad was half white, which must have really made for an interesting day for the notary down at Kinko's. Judy persists. If he is half Native American, the tribe has a right to weigh in on the adoption. Judy asks why, if Marnie wanted the adoption to go through, she named a Native American as the father.
Well,
Maybe he was the father? Am I missing something? I mean, I guess she could have lied and said it was someone else. Or she could have provided the name at the onset. That would have just squashed the thing right at the beginning, and the kid would have never gotten adopted. Or she could have continued to not provide the name, but that's lying by omission, which still kind of feels like fraud.
He was her father, and at the time, was telling the honest truth. I wanted the best for my little girl.
Well, that remains to be seen. But yeah, you gave them the father's name or pseudonym because he was the father.
Then, if he was the father, that means that you lied at the beginning when you said you didn't know who the father was.
I feel like there's an easy solution to this. Were her pants on fire when she gave birth, or 14 months later when the kid was almost adopted?
It's foolproof.
Marnie rationalizes that she never lied. She just never signed a birth certificate that had a father's name on it. She did not tell the truth. She just chose to not go out of her way to tell the truth.
Marnie!
I never told them that I didn't know who the father was. Personally, I didn't tell anybody who the father was. It was no one's business.
I'm beginning to understand why Vicky thought there might be a need to get this kid out of Marnie's tutelage. Now, I mostly agree with that sentiment. You don't have to tell the lady who delivers your mail who the father of your baby is. You don't have to tell the kid who's restocking the macchiato JoJo's at Trader Joe's who the father of your baby is. You don't have to tell Craig Kilborn, formerly of SportsCenter, The Daily Show, and The Late Late Show, who the father of your baby is. But I think it's a little different when it comes to the state and to your aunt who's trying to adopt your kid. Things get a little complicated if your aunt is Craig Kilborn, who's been moonlighting lately as a postal worker and at Trader Joe's, but you get the idea.
I didn't know what I was doing as an 18-year-old giving birth to a little girl.
Hey, that's not how you put it the first time. The first time it was like you were playing keep away with the father's name, and then you did that annoying thing where you put your hand on her forehead so that we couldn't get close to you, and all the while in your other hand you had the father's name just out of reach. That's how you did it the first time.
Then somebody else was named as the father.
She named that person on the papers. It asked in the DA's papers who you have slept with in the last 5 months.
Wait, is this real? Do district attorneys ask this question? And if so, well, in what circumstance? And who she slept with in the prior 5 months, 10 years ago when the kid was born? Also, do district attorneys know how long a pregnancy is? Because 5 months. Oh, wait. No, I think I've got it. Marnie thought that the dad's name wasn't anyone else's business. Well, what if she also thought her own species wasn't anyone else's business? And the DA thought she was a beaver. Gestation day, 122 days, not quite 5 months. Maybe a goat, 145-day gestation period. Definitely not a sperm whale. It takes almost 600 days for a baby whale to come out.
That's too much, man.
Marnie skips over all of my questions, the ones about the DA and the species and all of that, to say that the person that Vicky is pushing to pay for child support was someone that Marnie had dated previously, say 1 or 2 generations of rabbits ago.
She can't name somebody
She
else
did.
as the father.
it wasn't me.
Because he was on the DA's papers stating that I slept with him in June. So since she considered that as a person to go for the back child support.
I'm about as confused as a pregnant kangaroo at 60 days. Their gestation period is about 42 days. Thankfully, it's not just me. Practically hopping mad, Judy also doesn't get what Marnie is talking about. Marnie continues to say things about how Vicky is pushing for this person Marnie slept with in June to pay back child support, which also begs the question, why is Vicky pushing for anyone to pay back child support? I thought she didn't have the kid because the tribal...
Hey, she's not suing you for child support.
All right, I think me and Judy, we're on the same page. What book, you ask? I'm glad you asked. It's a coloring book. The gestational periods of various mammals, a coloring guide for children, podcasters, and TV judges, with an introduction by the best-selling ghostwriter for famed author Millie Bobby Brown. Judy reminds Marnie that the state, not her aunt, is suing her for child support. Marnie says she understands, but then she tells a story that's not very interesting, but anyway, it convinces me that she may not actually understand.
So let's move on.
Why don't you take a blood test?
Classic vampire trap. Why don't you take a blood test? Oh, there are no phlebotomists around. Why don't you let me do the blood test? Oh, no, it's a new thing. We take the blood from the neck. Oh, no, we don't even need needles. I'm on to you, Vampire Judy.
This was a total misunderstanding.
Marnie says she has taken a blood test, but the results haven't come back yet. After which Judy says baloney, suggesting either that she doesn't believe Marnie or that Judy has a very simple lunch order.
Just the blood tests were just barely taken 3 weeks ago.
At age 9?
At age 9 years old.
Marnie says yes, that this thing has only become an issue in the prior year. And I feel like we've gotten awfully sidetracked. What does this have to do with whether Vicky has to pay for a kid she backed out of adopting? Judy says that if the blood tests eventually come back saying the person Vicky says is the father isn't actually the father, then Marnie will be 100% responsible for the back child support.
Marnie.
And I gotta pause again. Who is caring for this kid that the state is suing Marnie for child support to begin with? Is she living in an orphanage? And what event occurred that resulted in the state suddenly deciding it wanted its money back? We've spent some time learning important lessons about tribal law and the importance of not lying about paternity on a birth certificate. But there's some really fundamental issues at play here that they haven't explained. Marnie tries to say that the only one who should be responsible is Vicky, since she breached her contract to adopt the kid.
Let me explain something to you. A child is not a piece of meat.
Unlike baloney. We come back from a commercial break with a very, very, very helpful voiceover from Jerry Bishop.
In this unusual custody case, Vicky Hopkins is being sued by her niece, Marnie Castillo, after caring for her daughter for many years.
Okay, I think I've got it now. Vicky was supposed to adopt the kid, but backed out because at the last minute, Marnie complicated things by adding a Native American as the father. However, Vicky continued to care for the kid, perhaps in a foster-like situation, and got compensated by the state. Now, for some reason, the state is suing Marnie for all the money it paid Vicky, and Marnie is suing Vicky for not adopting the kid, which would have taken the kid out of the state's responsibility. The voiceover goes on to explain that Marnie thought her daughter had been adopted and was shocked to find out that wasn't the case, 9 years after the fact.
It's expired.
Back to Judy now, who says that at some point the kid came back to Marnie from Vicky. Marnie says that this was a result of Vicky requiring surgery and then, quote, getting on all kinds of medication. Which is kind of an underhanded jab, because I don't think Marnie is implying that Vicky was on Pepto-Bismol.
My uncle thought it was a better idea for her to come back to the mother. Since I had been previously on drugs and on alcohol, I do admit to that, yes.
Minor correction. I don't think he thought the kid should go back to you because you were previously using drugs and alcohol, but because you were hopefully no longer using drugs and alcohol, unless your uncle's a real joker. Marnie goes on to say that it's been a long journey to get to where she is now, and that for a long time, it was in her child's best interest to be with Vicky and her husband. That takes a lot of maturity and self-awareness to admit, and whatever she's done right or wrong, it doesn't sound like Marnie's life has been easy.
But they always led me to believe she was adopted to them, and I was never an absent parent.
This is why Marnie says she's angry. She didn't have things like visitation.
I had no clue she wasn't adopted until 1994 on Easter when my aunt and I got into a fight.
Easter is supposed to be a day where you celebrate the original inspiration for all zombie movies to come. A day when we honor the resurrection by putting food coloring on the unfertilized reproductive detritus of enslaved birds. But this, it sounds like their Easter was ruined, and that's no joke. I'm a little fuzzy on the chronology of events, but it was sometime around this unholy fracas that Marnie says she got the paperwork from the district attorney explaining that she owed the back child support, even though she had gone years without the rights a parent ought to have.
Are you saying to me, Miss Castillo, that your aunt and uncle prevented you from seeing
Yes,
this
they
little
did, man.
After not so gently chastising Marnie for cutting her off, Judy asks Vicky if this is true. Vicky denies it, leading to this.
That is true, and you know it.
In the very
And you moved
beginning,
away
when
from her.
Marley
You
first
moved
came
away.
to us,
You're irritating me.
Oh, that's why you're scowling. I just thought you were still doing the whole vampire Judy thing I made up. Silly me. Judy goes further by saying that if Marnie irritates her again, she'll dismiss her case. It's an interesting tactic, but not one that works with every kind of irritant. Try telling a mosquito that you'll dismiss its case and see where that gets you. With Marnie still shaking her head and murmuring remonstrations, Vicky explains that in the beginning, roughly 9 years prior, she asked Marnie not to visit for 6 months so that her family and Marnie's kid could better bond. Marnie interrupts to say that it was not 6 months, but 3 years, earning another warning from the judge.
I told you one more time and you're out of here. You got it?
Yeah, but you're doing a lot more yelling and a lot less kicking out, and Marnie's still there, so kind of feels like you're all talk. Judy yells one more time, 2 more times, and I have a feeling it won't be the last time.
Let's try that again.
Vicky says that after the first 6 months, she allowed Marnie to visit her daughter, but that she rarely heard from her niece. They would talk occasionally on the phone, and Vicky would provide updates, but that's it. Marnie is still flagrantly ignoring Judy's warnings with whispered but audible denials of what Vicky's saying.
I told her the adoption had stopped because she had named Fillmore as the father. And I said, I can't have this little girl ripped out of my arms into a strange people's place when this little girl is emotional already.
Bailiff Bird escorts a tissue to Marnie, who's in tears at this point, and still has to listen as her aunt says some unflattering things about her.
Unless Marnie was fighting with one of her boyfriends, then she would call us on the phone and talk to me to come and help her get her out of a situation with one of the boyfriends.
Marnie!
It had been a while, but we finally have a relevant detail again. In May of the previous year, after some discussion and after 8 years of having the kid in their lives, Vicky and her husband agreed to return the kid back to Marnie after Vicky's sister, Marnie's mom, had told the kid that Marnie was her real mom during a visit.
I was just devastated. We were waiting to tell her when the time was right.
I don't know if there's a perfect time to return the kid to her mom or to tell her who her real mom is, and I don't think this sounds like the right way to tell the kid, but I also don't know if the right reaction to the kid learning who its real mom is to then ship the kid off to this lady who has apparently barely seen and only recently found out is her mom. It feels like you're punishing the kid. It feels like the kid just had a major bombshell, and you're compounding it by having her move out of your house too. Judy, she's more concerned with how the kid was told, and more specifically, why.
What's wrong with your sister?
I love her, but people do their own thing.
This will surprise no one who knows me, but I am convinced that it's okay to stop loving someone if doing their own thing means doing the wrong thing. It doesn't make you a bad person when you recognize other people are bad people that you no longer want in your life.
Tell me more.
And at least for me, this doesn't even have to rise to the level of telling a kid who its real mom is. Call me petty, but if you do something as simple as question my opinion that BoJack Horseman is the best show of the streaming era, I will cut you off. You will be dead to me. Just try it.
You are the most petty, jealous, and bitter person I've ever met.
Vicky says that the kid took the news of her real mother a little poorly.
She asked me, Mom, why did Marnie keep Tristano and give me away?
I hope no one ever asks me that question. That specific question. Same names, everything. Because I truly wouldn't know what to say. Tristano, Marnie's other kid, is 2.5 and, by all accounts, the cooler child that Marnie loves more. According to Vicky, it was her husband who pushed for Marnie to get her kid back.
She is doing good now, and he said not a lot of people get a second chance.
I suppose that this doesn't contradict Marnie's version of events, that surgery and medication had sidelined Vicky to the point where they sent the kid packing. But Marnie's shaking her head like her aunt is lying. Either that or she's got a very stubborn crick in her neck.
I did go through a nervous breakdown the whole year of letting her go.
You know, at no point in either story did we hear that Marnie wanted the kid back, and that's why she went back. Presumably she didn't not want the kid, but it doesn't seem like she was clamoring to get her back. And apparently it was hard on Vicky, the whole separation, and it must have been quite an adjustment for the kid. So why'd Vicky do it?
It doesn't make any sense.
She says now she knows it was the right decision, and I call that the Judge Judy buyer's remorse. Once whatever you've done leads you to being on Judge Judy, you regret doing that thing. Vicky's second guessing of things, she says, stems from the fact that she learned that Marnie had sent the kid to live with her mom, the kid's grandmother, after just 2 months of living with Marnie. So yeah, I think Vicky was right to second guess herself because I was right. Marnie doesn't want the kid.
My sister and I had problems, and I said the little girl should have been sent back to us, not to you.
Earlier, Judy repeatedly said that children aren't meat. Except that people treat meat better than they've treated this kid. I don't see butterball turkeys handed around with such reckless abandon. We come back from another break, and this time Jerry Bishop calls the case bizarre, whereas earlier it was unusual. If we get another commercial, I'm afraid he's going to call it crazy, which would only be a slight exaggeration.
Not much.
Judy asks why Marnie sent her kid to her mom's house.
I lived in a studio apartment, my husband, I, and my son.
She quite literally didn't have room in her life for the kid. It's a point I really can't get off of. She didn't want the kid. She thought that it was unjust for her to have not gotten visitation if she's going to be charged back child support. But that's the only indication she's given that she wanted this kid around. And as I said before, the other kid, Tristano, he was just so much more likable that I can't blame Marnie.
Did you tell your aunt when you spoke to her, before your daughter was moved to your house, I can't take her now?
Marnie says yes, she did say that. Vicky says she didn't. I wonder who Judy's going to side with.
Please, Miss Castillo.
Can I address
You
her,
are
please?
so full of baloney.
Marnie wants her husband to speak on her behalf, saying he was there for the conversation. I actually hadn't seen this guy sitting next to Marnie. Apparently he's named Mario. Makes me wonder if he popped out of a green pipe, am I right? He says that the apartment that they lived in is, for instance, much smaller than Bowser's castle, that the apartment was too small, and that this whole situation was forced upon Marnie. He says he asked if they could wait until they had a bigger space, given that the kid had her own things and was used to more space. However, he says he explained this to his wife, not to Vicky. And Judy isn't interested in what Mario and Marnie were talking about, but probably only because it's something so mundane. If Mario and Marnie had been talking about something more interesting, like how the QAnon conspiracy theory obscured actual serious discussion of a real global network of child rapists, then maybe Judy would have been more interested.
So, look into that. Let me know what you find.
Mario's claim that he overheard this whole conversation between Marnie and Vicky, it's too little too late for Judge Judy, and she commands him to return to his green pipe from whence he came.
I went through a lot of trauma and turmoil over this whole thing.
You caused a lot of trauma.
Marnie says she hasn't caused anything, and that her aunt has put, quote, a melancholy act on. A phrase I've never heard of, but believe would be a fantastic name for a jazz rock band that I'd never listened to.
Here, I was the one that was the victim.
Thus begins another rant from Marnie, who talks a little bit about the fact that Vicky was only supposed to take her kid if she was adopting it, about how she's had problems, about how she was in drug treatment, about how Vicky moved away when she was in drug treatment, about how she missed out on holidays with her daughter. There's more, but there's no reason to drag it out. Here's the thing. Yeah, she caused a lot of trauma and turmoil. And yeah, she went through a lot of trauma and turmoil. Both things are true and evident.
Miss Castillo, it's too bad that you have 2 children. Not 1, but 2.
I do
Because
have
it's too bad you have any.
Oh boy.
That feels like it's laying it on a little heavy. Now, I suppose Judy has passed her threshold for niceties and patience. I suppose we're 2 or 3 last warnings past common decency. Now, I empathize with Judy's position because I think that Marnie definitely needs a lot of help. I just don't know if saying on national TV that it's a shame she has kids is going to help anyone.
The only victim in this case
Is the little girl.
That's right.
Judy says that Marnie has caused all of this, that it was all a byproduct of her irresponsibility, her drug problem, and her drug rehabilitation. I don't understand the last point, but there's no time because Judy's on a roll. She says that Vicky and her family took on this extra responsibility, a child, to clean up a mess of Marnie's making, and a problem that Marnie only exacerbated when she added the dad's name to the birth certificate late in the adoption process. Remembering that Marnie's mom told the kid that Marnie was her real mom, Judy makes a little time to condemn her too.
That's very confusing. I don't know where your sister went to psychiatry school.
Probably Cornell. They'll give a degree to anyone. It's the University of Phoenix of the Ivy League. Their main selling point, besides the lack of academic standards, is that the frozen hellhole they call a campus has some waterfalls. Even the water is trying to get away from Cornell.
Because she's not a very intelligent woman.
Cornell Cornell for sure. After much to-do, Judy says it's ultimately a decision about whether she tells Vicky to pay $4,300 or she tells Marnie to pay $4,300. And Judy says in the 8 years the kid was with Vicky, she undoubtedly spent more than $4,300 raising her. Which, yeah, that's about $45 a month, or enough to give a kid 15 Happy Meals or so, at least in 1997. That would be 15 awesome toys, no doubt. But it's hard to stretch 15 little burgers and fries over a whole month.
You pay more to take care of a goldfish.
How much do you pay to take care of your goldfish? Comment or email judgingjudypod@gmail.com. Unsurprisingly, Judy dismisses Marnie's case. As Bailiff Bird escorts Marnie out, she tells Vicky that she hates her. That, however, isn't all she has to say.
What about the fact that your daughter is my dad's real daughter, Vicky, huh? What about that fact? You're my aunt and my cousin is my sister. What about that one?
Marnie!
We've reached everyone's favorite part of the show. It's time for me to judge Judy. I pretend to follow a set of strict rules, but it all comes down to this. Did Judy deliver justice to the people in her court, to the people at home, to you, and to me? If she did, she's innocent. If not, she's guilty. Judy navigated a tough case today. It got off to a slow start, but once it got going, it turned into a train wreck. That was of no fault of Judy's. I mean, I think she could have shown some more sensitivity. She could have chosen her words more carefully. But that's not her shtick, and that's not what the show is about. For the most part, Judy conducted herself fine. And she reached the only decision she really could have. All told, she showed more patience than I might have expected her to show. My big objection is, why'd you even have the lady on? I mean, I guess I know the reason. The producers knew the nature of the case would make for entertaining TV. But she had no chance of winning. She was a mess. She had no legal precedent to sue someone for not adopting her kid. It was a lost cause. And for the sake of this woman's sanity, and her standing in her community, and for the sake of the kid who was unwillingly dragged into this whole thing, I wish Marnie hadn't been on the show at all. But I'm not here to judge Judy for cases that didn't happen. So today, Judy is innocent. That sound means it's time for Hangman, but this isn't the Hangman you played as a kid when you really ought to have been looking for dairy-free alternatives. No, this is Hangman with stakes. This week I'm putting weather prognosticating rodents on the gallows. That's right, in tribute to that most special, most holy of holidays, I'm putting Puxatawny Phil up there, along with Staten Island Chuck, Balzac Billy, and my personal favorite, taxidermied groundhog, Schundoggle Sammy. If I win, these little guys and gals will continue to make wholly accurate predictions about the weather. If I lose, then we'll have to rely on trained professionals like rubes. As always, I'm using hangmanwords.com, and this week I'm returning to their music words list. As a reminder, I can make 6 incorrect guesses, 6 letters that aren't in the word, until I lose. And yes, I know this would be better on a visual medium. So today's word is 4, 6, 9 letters, I believe. Let's start off with P. P in tribute to Puxatawny Phil. There is no P, so I just sacrificed one of my guesses for a stupid reason. Let's go a little more traditional. Let's go with A. There are 2 A's, so blank blank A, blank 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 A, blank blank. Let's try T, as in the letter between S and U. There is no T. So now I have a torso on my hangman and I have 4 more incorrect guesses. Let's go with another vowel. Let's go with O. There is no O. So I have 3 more incorrect guesses and I still only have those 2 A's hanging out in this 9-ish letter word. Try R. There is an R. Blank R, A, blank blank blank, A, blank blank. Try F. There's no F. All right, I gotta buckle down. Let's go E. There has to be an E here, right? There is an E, so blank blank, excuse me, blank RA, blank E, blank A, blank blank. Okay, let's go with S. There is no S, so I only have 1 more guess, and I mean, what letter could go at the beginning there? That's kind of playing nice with the R. It could be a C, it could be a D, it could be an R, excuse me, a G. I'm all over the place with this one. I'm gonna go with D. There is a D. Blank RA, blank E, blank A, blank D. Graceland is what I believe it is. Yes, it is. G, C, L, N. And like the boy in the bubble and the child of my first marriage, we are going to Graceland, where we'll see if there's a groundhog down there. Maybe he can tell us if it's going to be 6 more months of Graceland or something. Anyway, you're welcome. With our final few moments, I wanted to share an out-of-context quote from Judge Judy. I occasionally go to the supermarket. That's it. Thanks for listening. Subscribe, fornicate, share, and like, but whatever you do, don't tell your granddaughter who her real mom is.